Hello, I'm Mr. McQuay, and today we're going to be talking about the MiterSaw. This saw you will need the instructor's permission to be using. The instructor will have to make sure that you understand what you're doing and that you know the safety procedures. This video is going to help you learn those safety procedures. First thing you should be looking at to review them is the placard, and you should read through the placard to make sure that you know these. If you're not familiar or something doesn't make sense, you need to talk to the instructor to make sure that you're clear. You also need eye protection with this saw. I have glasses on, so I will be using goggles. The other thing that you have to be aware of is your clothing. You cannot have clothing that is loose, baggy, sweatshirts that the sleeves are hanging down, the sweatshirt strings hanging down, bracelets that are hanging, loose rings, loose necklaces. You have to have all that stuff off so that it can't be caught in the blade and pull you in. The guards on this machine are right in front of the blade, and you have to make sure that that is working and is on. To make sure it's working, just pull the handle down and see if it moves as the saw comes down. The other area that you need to be aware of is the safety zone. And on a compound miter saw or a miter saw, it is 4 inches from the blade. And you can see this one is marked right there. You cannot put your hands, fingers, anything inside that safety zone. That is a danger area, and everything has to be outside of that, your fingers, your hands. The other thing that you have to be sure of is you place the work against the fence. This is the back part of the saw. If your work, your project isn't placed against the fence, as the saw turns, it's going to grab your work and throw it against the fence. And this can hurt your fingers. It can throw it and break the saw. It's just not a good thing to happen. So you want that work pushed against the fence. This saw also takes a long time for the blade to stop. It spins and it takes a long time. I'll demonstrate that right now and show you how long this takes. It takes a while for it to stop. So you have to make sure that it is stopped before you walk away from the saw. Now, what we're going to do is demonstrate actually cutting a piece. And I'll put my safety goggles on. I'll get my work. And I've already marked a couple spots. I used a square and marked a line where I want to cut. Now, if I'm cutting with the miter saw, the blade is going to take up some of the wood, and it's going to cut about 1/8 wide through it. So you have to make sure that you cut on the side of the line that you don't need. So if this is my project right here, I'm going to put the blade edge right there so that I don't cut into my piece. These saws are very accurate, but you have to line them up to make it work right. So I'm going to put my piece down, and I'm going to actually put it the other side so that I have more to hold down on. And you can see that we've even marked a place for your fingers to hold the work. If you have your hand right here holding the work down, you don't have to worry about getting your fingers too close to the blade. So I'm going to just test this. I'm pushing it against the fence, making sure that it's tight, and I'm just going to test where it actually is going to cut. So I'm looking at the blade and looking at the edge of the blade and lining it up with my piece of wood. And since this area is the project, I want to cut on the outside of my line. So I'm lining it up. Then, before I cut, I have to start the blade before I put it into the wood. If you have the blade down on the wood and you start the blade, it's not going to work, and that can be dangerous. So I'll start the saw, I'll cut through it, and then I'm going to wait till the blade completely stops before I move either of my hands. I'm not going to move at all until that blade completely stops, and that's very important. Okay, we're going to try a cut. Pull the trigger, press down, make your cut, right up on the trigger, wait till the blade stops. Now I can safely move my hands and check my work. I can see just a little bit of my line there, and that is good. That's perfect. I'll move the other piece. I didn't put my hand in the danger area. I kept it in the safe area. Now, the other thing that you have to be aware of is if you're right or left-handed, sometimes it doesn't really feel comfortable like this. Especially if you're doing a cut like this, this may feel awkward. The thing that you cannot do is do this. This is absolutely not acceptable. It's too dangerous. And you can see if I try to do that here, I'm really putting myself in harm's way. So even though this feels awkward, this is much safer than turning your arms the other way. Make sure, again, before you use this, that you have instructor's permission. This is a very accurate saw. It is used a lot to cut straight pieces of wood at places like this. It is not used to cut them this way, only cross cuts. Well, I hope that this makes sense and that you are able to use one of these. They're very useful and they're enjoyable machines to use.